Have you ever wondered why some people get richer and richer while others, even with good jobs and good education, keep struggling financially? Why is it that two people can work equally hard, but one ends up building wealth while the other just scrapes by, living paycheck to paycheck? Well, there's a book that opened millions of eyes to this mystery. It's not just a book about money, it's a book about how we think about money. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And what makes this book so powerful isn't that it gives you some magic formula to get rich overnight. It's that it shows you something way more important: your mindset, the way you look at money, at work, at life. All of it can either keep you stuck or set you free. Let me tell you something unusual about this book. Robert Kiyosaki didn't grow up with just one father figure. He had two. His real dad, who he calls the poor dad, was highly educated. He had a good government job, believed in getting degrees, working hard, and retiring with a pension, the classic safe route, right? Then there was his best friend's father, the rich dad. This man had very little formal education, but he was a self-made millionaire. He believed in building businesses, investing, and making money work for you instead of working for money. To dads, two totally different views about life and money. And guess what? As a young boy, Robert got to learn from both. One dad would say, go to school, get good grades, and find a secure job. The other would say, learn how money works, build assets, and become financially free. That's the heart of this book. It's not just about making money, it's about understanding money. It's about seeing the world differently. Because, let's be honest, most of us were never taught how to manage money. Not in school, not at home. We were told to study hard, get a job, and save money. But no one told us how to invest. No one explained how the rich really build wealth. This book flips that script. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to take you through all the powerful lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You don't need to have read the book. You don't need to know anything about finance. I'll explain everything in simple, easy to understand language, just like a friend talking to you. We'll explore how the rich think differently, what they teach their kids about money, and what you can start doing today to change your financial future forever. But first, I have one simple question for you. Are you working for money, or is your money working for you? Stick with me till the end of this video, because this might be the most important financial lesson you've ever heard. If you're someone who's tired of being stuck in the same cycle, who wants more freedom, more control, and a better future, then this is for you. Alright, let's get into the heart of the book. This is where it starts to click for most people the moment they realize they've been looking at money all wrong. Robert Kiyosaki says something that sounds strange at first. He says, the rich don't work for money. Now wait, what does that mean? Everyone works for money, right? You go to work, you get your paycheck, and that's how life goes. But that's exactly the trap. What Kiyosaki means is this: most people, especially the middle class and poor, spend their entire lives trading their time for money. You work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You get your paycheck, you pay your bills, and if there's anything left, maybe you save a little. Then next month, you start all over again. And if you stop working, the money stops too. That's called active income. You're actively doing something to earn every dollar. It's like running on a treadmill. If you're working hard, but you're not really getting anywhere. Now, let's compare that to how the rich operate. Instead of working harder and harder, they focus on building something called passive income. Money that comes in whether they're working or not. And how do they do that? By investing in assets. This is one of the biggest lessons in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Know the difference between an asset and a liability. Let's break it down in really simple terms. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. It generates income. A liability, on the other hand, takes money out of your pocket. It costs you. Now here's the twist: many people think they're buying assets when they're actually buying liabilities. Take a house, for example. Most people believe that owning a house is an asset, but Robert Kiyosaki disagrees. Why? Because your house costs you money in mortgage payments, taxes, repairs, maintenance, unless it's a rental property. That gives you monthly income, your personal home isn't generating cash flow. It's actually taking money out of your pocket. So, it's a liability. On the other hand, things like rental real estate, stocks that pay dividends, a business that runs without you, or even intellectual property like books or music, those are assets. They keep making money for you, even when you sleep. So while most people are busy buying fancy cars, bigger houses, or expensive gadgets, things that look good but don't earn anything, the rich are quietly building their asset column. Now here's the real kicker schools don't teach us any of this. You could have straight A's, get a degree from a top university, and still not know the first thing about money. That's what happened to Kiyosaki's poor dad. He was smart, educated, hardworking, but he didn't understand how money worked. Meanwhile, the rich dad, who never finished the 8th grade, understood the language of money and became wealthy. Robert says we need to focus on financial education, something most of us were never given. Learning how to read a financial statement, understanding how cash flow works, knowing the basics of taxes, debt, interest, investments. These things aren't just for bankers or investors. They're for everyone who wants to be financially freed. Now, let's talk about the cash flow pattern. Kiyosaki explains that the poor and middle class have a very different pattern from the rich. When the poor get paid, the money goes out immediately. Rent, food, bills. There's nothing left. The middle class, when they get more income, they buy liabilities, a nicer car, a bigger house, but those come with monthly payments. So even if their salary increases, their expenses increase. The rich, they do something else entirely. They use their income to buy assets, and then the assets generate more income. It's like planting a tree that keeps giving fruit every season. Over time, the income from their assets grows so much that they no longer need to work for money. Their money works for them. And that's freedom. Now, I want you to think about your own financial life. Are you working just to pay the bills? Are you buying things that look like success, but are actually keeping you stuck? It's not your fault. The system trains us to be consumers, not creators. We're taught to chase promotions, not profits. But once you see the game, you can start playing it differently. One of the smartest things Robert says is, the most important thing you can do is start building your asset column. Even if you start small and buying a few stocks, learning about real estate, starting a side hustle, you're shifting your direction. And that shift, that's where freedom begins. Let's take a quick example. Imagine two people, same age, same job. One spends their extra income on a new car with monthly payments. The other uses that same money to invest in a small rental unit. 5 years later, the first person still has a car payment, and the car has dropped in value. The second person is collecting rent every month, and maybe they've bought a second unit. That's the power of assets. They grow, they multiply, and they give you options. So here's a key takeaway. Don't just work for money. Use your money to build assets. Let your assets work for you. And this doesn't mean you have to become a financial expert overnight. It means you start learning, little by little. You read, you ask questions, you pay attention, you make small moves that, over time, become big changes. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep, how hard it works for you, and how long you keep it. Let me repeat that. It's not how much money you earn. It's how much you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. That's what separates the rich from everyone else. So before we move to the next part, I want you to really think about this. Are you building your asset column? Are you learning how money works, or just working harder to keep up? Because this moment, right now, could be the beginning of a whole new financial future for you. Stick with me, because up next we're going to talk about how the rich mind their own business, how they use tax laws to their advantage, and why working just to earn a paycheck is not the path to freedom. You're not here just to survive. You're here to thrive. Let's keep going. So, by now, you understand that the rich don't just work for money. They build assets that work for them. But here's the next major shift in mindset that Rich Dad Poor Dad teaches. The rich mind their own business. Now, this doesn't mean they don't care about others or that they're selfish. What Robert means is that wealthy people focus on building their own income streams, not just working to grow someone else's dream. Let me explain. Most people work a job. They put all their energy into their job. Their salary pays the bills, the mortgage, the credit card. But the truth is, while they're working hard, they're actually helping someone else build their business. Think about it. When you're an employee, your time and effort help make money for the company, not for yourself. You get your paycheck, and that's it. The owners and shareholders, they're the ones who get rich. They own the assets. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a job. In fact, Robert Kiyosaki isn't saying you should quit tomorrow and start a business with no plan. Not at all. What he is saying is, while you work your job, also work on your own business. Start building something on the side. It could be real estate. It could be an online store. It could be investments. The point is to create something that belongs to you, something that brings in money even when you're not working. Robert calls this building your asset column. But in simpler words, it means creating freedom for your future self. So, while your job might be your current income, your side business, your investments, that's your future wealth. That's you minding your own business. Now, let's talk about something that most people either avoid or don't understand. Taxes. Yep, I know, taxes are not fun to think about. But here's the wild part, the rich don't just make more money, they also keep more of it. You see, wealthy people understand how the system works, and the system rewards certain behaviors, especially business owners and investors. Let's say you're an employee. You get taxed on your income before you get to spend it. You earn $5,000, and taxes take a big chunk before you even touch it. But when you're a business owner or investor, something magical happens. You earn money through your business. You spend money on expenses like travel, equipment, marketing, and then you pay taxes on what's left. Not the other way around. In simple words, the rich spend before tax, the poor spend after tax. Robert's rich dad taught him that a corporation is like a legal shield. It protects your wealth and helps reduce how much you owe in taxes completely legally. That's why so many wealthy people set up LLCs, trusts, and other legal structures. These aren't shady tricks. These are tools built into the system. You just have to learn how to use them. Now, you might be thinking, but I'm not rich yet. I don't need to worry about taxes right now. But here's the truth, the sooner you learn this stuff, the faster you grow. Because the more you keep, the more you can reinvest. And the more you reinvest, the faster your wealth builds. Okay, let's shift gears a little. One of the most powerful ideas in Rich Dad Poor Dad is this: don't work to earn. Work to learn. Let that sink in for a second. Most of us are taught to get a job that pays the most money. That's it. The job with the biggest paycheck wins. But Robert's rich dad told him something different. He said, take jobs that teach you new skills, especially money skills. You see, the rich aren't just chasing dollars. They're collecting skills. They learn how to sell. They learn how to lead. They learn how to negotiate, market, invest, and solve problems. Because those skills, they stay with you forever. And they help you make money in any economy, in any business, in any country. Think of it this way: a job might give you a paycheck for a month, but a skill, that gives you income for a lifetime. Let's take sales, for example. Most people are afraid of sales. They don't want to be pushy. But Robert says learning how to sell, how to communicate, persuade, and influence is one of the most valuable skills in the world. Because every business, every idea, every product needs someone who can sell it. So, he took jobs in sales, even when they didn't pay much, just to learn the ropes. He worked in real estate, in investing, and small businesses, not for the paycheck, but for the education. And that mindset, working to learn, gave him the confidence to later build his own companies. So, let me ask you, are you stuck in a job that's not teaching you anything new? What if you started focusing on skills over salary? What if your next move wasn't about the money, but about what you'd learn? Here's another truth: everything you want is just one skill away. Want to start a business? Learn how to build systems. Want to invest in real estate? Learn how to analyze deals. Want to grow on social media? Learn storytelling, Branding. Video. Skills build income. Income builds assets. Assets build freedom. It all starts with what you're willing to learn. Now, let me connect all of this together for you. We started with the idea that the rich don't work for money. Instead, they build assets that generate income. Then we saw that the rich also protect their income using smart financial structures like businesses and corporations. And finally, we see that the rich are constantly learning, not just from books or school, but from life, from experiences, from every job they take and every person they meet. This is what makes the difference. It's not luck. It's not just hard work. It's the right mindset, the right habits, and the right education over time. And you know what the best part is? Anyone can start this journey. You don't need to be born into wealth. You don't need to have rich parents or a fancy degree. All you need is the willingness to see things differently and the courage to act. So I'll ask you again, are you building someone else's dream or your own? Are you spending every dollar, or are you learning to keep it, grow it, and multiply it? Because your job might give you money, but your mindset will give you freedom. Stick around, because in the next section, we're going to talk about the inner battles that stop most people from ever getting richer. Things like fear, doubt, laziness, and even arrogance. And more importantly, how you can break free. If you're ready to take control of your future, keep watching. Your mindset is shifting. And that's where real change begins. Let's pause for a moment and talk about something real. Because let's face it, even if you understand how money works, even if you know the difference between assets and liabilities, even if you get how the rich play the game differently, there's still something that might stop you. Something that stops most people. And that's what Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about next, the emotional and mental traps that keep people poor. Robert says it's not just about knowledge. It's about what's going on inside your head. He explains that there are 5 big inner obstacles that hold people back: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Let's take them one by one. Because until you deal with these, no amount of money advice will really stick. First, let's talk about fear. Fear is the biggest reason most people never get rich. Not because they're not smart enough, not because they don't have opportunities, but because they're afraid of losing money, of making mistakes, of looking stupid. And you know what? That fear is completely normal. Even wealthy people feel fear. Even Robert Kiyosaki himself lost money on some of his early investments. But the difference is, the rich learn how to manage fear. They don't let fear stop them. They accept it, feel it, and move forward anyway. Robert says, the primary difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they manage fear. The poor avoid risk at all costs. The rich learn how to take calculated risks. They understand that losing some money is part of learning. It's part of growing. It's part of winning. You didn't learn to walk without falling, so why do we expect to build wealth without a few stumbles? If fear has been holding you back from starting a business, investing, trying something new, then ask yourself this: what's scarier, failing a few times, or staying stuck your whole life? Now let's move to the second obstacle: cynicism. Cynicism is that little voice that says, this won't work, or this is a scam, or people like me don't do stuff like this. Cynicism makes you doubt everything and everyone. Now, of course, being careful is good. You should ask questions. You should do your research. But cynicism, it doesn't ask questions to learn. It asks questions to shut things down. And here's the problem. When you see the world through doubt and fear, you miss opportunities. You become so busy saying this won't work that you don't even try. Robert's poor dad was highly intelligent, but he let doubt and fear control him. He said things like, I can't afford that, or investing is risky. His mind was closed. But the rich dad would ask, how can I afford it? Or how do I learn to manage risk? One mindset shuts doors, the other opens them. You've been cynical about money, about wealth, or about wealthy people. Maybe it's time to ask where that's coming from. Are you protecting yourself, or just staying stuck? Now let's talk about the third trap: laziness. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm not lazy. I work hard every day. And you're right. Most people do work hard. But Robert makes A powerful point here. He says busyness can be a form of laziness. Let that sink in. Sometimes we stay so busy with work, errands, social media, distractions that we never stop and deal with important stuff. We avoid learning about money. We put off planning our finances. We say things like, "I don't have time to invest," or "I'll learn about that later." But the truth is, that's laziness in disguise. Rich Dad taught Robert that lazy thinking is what keeps people poor, because it's easier to stay in your comfort zone. It's easier to avoid tough conversations. It's easier to keep scrolling than it is to sit down and read about financial freedom. So the next time you catch yourself saying "I don't have time," ask yourself, is that true? Or am I just avoiding something important? Because small, lazy habits lead to long-term struggle, but small, smart decisions made consistently lead to freedom. Now, let's talk about bad habits. We all have them. Some people overspend when they're stressed. Some avoid opening their bills. Some treat credit cards like free money. Robert says, your habits with money will determine your future with money. If your habit is to spend everything you earn, you'll always be broke, no matter how much you make. If your habit is to invest before you spend, you'll grow wealth, even on a modest income. Bad habits with money are often emotional. We buy to feel better. We spend to feel in control. But real control comes from discipline, from setting a budget, from tracking where your money goes, from deciding that you're in charge, not your emotions. And finally, let's talk about arrogance. This one's sneaky. Robert says, what I know makes me money. What I don't know loses me money. But what I think I know that I really don't is what hurts me the most. In other words, thinking you already know everything is dangerous. You can't grow if you don't stay humble and open to learning. Many people lose money because they jump into investments without learning, or they think asking for advice is a weakness. But the wealthy, they read, they study, they ask questions, they pay mentors, they hire experts. They never stop learning. So if you want to grow wealth, drop the ego. Be willing to be a student again. Be okay with saying, I don't know this yet, but I'm willing to learn, because learning isn't a one-time thing. It's a lifetime habit. Now let me bring this all together. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance. These are not just money problems. These are life problems that show up in your finances. And here's the good news. Once you see them, you can change them. You can face your fear and take one small step. You can quiet the cynic and try something new. You can shift your habits. Slowly but surely, you can learn what you don't know and grow stronger every day. Rich Dad Poor Dad isn't just a book about money. It's a book about mindset, about courage, about taking ownership of your future. Because once you change your thoughts, you change your actions. And once you change your actions, your whole life begins to change. So I'll ask you one more time, what's really stopping you? Is it money, or is it mindset? Because your future doesn't depend on your past. It depends on what you choose to do next. In the final section coming up, we'll wrap everything together. I'll share the last powerful lesson from Rich Dad Poor Dad and leave you with motivation to take action. Stick with me. We're almost there. Your financial awakening is just beginning. We've come a long way in this journey together. You've just explored the core ideas of Rich Dad Poor Dad, not just a book about money, but a blueprint for freedom, a wake-up call to stop surviving and start living on your own terms. And now, we reach one final lesson. It's simple, but powerful. Give, and you shall receive. Robert Kiyosaki says the richest people aren't just the ones with the most money. They're the ones who give the most of their time, their knowledge, their resources, and life somehow gives back even more. You see, when you're generous, you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. You stop clinging. You start creating. You become someone who adds value, not just takes from the world. Whether it's teaching your kids what you've learned, helping someone else start their journey, or simply sharing ideas that changed your life, every time you give, you grow. The poor dad believed in working harder. The rich dad believed in thinking smarter. But above all, he believed in lifting others as you rise. So, what can you do with everything you've learned today? Here's where it becomes real. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to start a business tomorrow or become an expert overnight. You just need to start small, but start smart. Look at your spending. Ask yourself, is this building my future or draining it? Begin tracking your income, your expenses, your habits. Look for your first asset, even if it's tiny. A stock, a savings plan, a business idea. Start reading more about money. Listen to people who've done what you want to do. Learn one new financial skill each week: is selling, saving, investing, budgeting. And most importantly, stay curious. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let doubt delay you. Don't wait for permission. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about being rich. It's about being free. Free to spend time with the people you love. Free to do the work you enjoy. Free to wake up every day knowing you own your time, not the other way around. That's the gift Rich Dad Poor Dad offers, not a shortcut, but a new way of seeing. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll never look at money the same way again. You'll start to recognize opportunities. You'll ask better questions. You'll take smarter risks. You'll become the kind of person others look up to, not because of what you have, but because of how you think. So here's my final question for you. Will you live the rest of your life by someone else's script? Or will you write your own? Because your future doesn't belong to your job, your boss, or your bank balance. It belongs to you. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like Rich Dad said, when you give, you receive. So share this video, pass it on, help someone else see what you now see. And if you're ready to change your financial story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of wisdom and inspiration. Thank you for watching. Your journey to financial freedom has already begun. Keep learning, keep building, keep going, because the world doesn't need more workers. It needs more owners. And you, yes, you were born to own your life.